On behalf of Thousand Hills Research and Action Collective in Rwanda, I want to welcome all of you to this meeting. Um, First of all, before we go too far, I want to say we are recording this meeting and we want to believe that we have your permission to record this meeting. It's okay if you don't show your face, that's fine, or something. And if you would not want us to record, please let us know. Then we'll advise on what to do. Uh, the purpose of our gathering this period is to examine, to be part of a growing and somewhat controversial conversation about the use of AI in research and pedagogy, in everything generally. There is a lot being said about this. And because many institutions do not have an AI policy yet, there is a lot of do it the way you wish going on. And you know what happens in such situation of freedom, which can also be spelled as chaos. Things happen, things go right, but then things also go wrong. And so, and AI has become so very big, it's applied in virtually everything. The best we can do is just to take a strand of it and do an in-depth examination and discussion around it. The background to today's conversation was the publication by over 400 professors and scholars about the use of artificial intelligence in reflexive qualitative research. Many people know, qualitative and quantitative research and what reflexive qualitative research is, and the age-long controversy around quant versus qual and mixed method and all of that. We were lucky to be able to reach out to the person who led that conversation, that declaration, and that is Tanisha Jausi. Tanisha is here with us. These over 400 professors came together and they say, no, it is wrong for three main reasons to use AI in reflexive qualitative research. And they made the point very clearly. However, we thought it would be more productive to have some kind of deeper interaction around this topic, given the growth of AI and given the fears that have been expressed by this professor. So Tanisha has so very kindly agreed to come here, and that is bold. I mean, I agree. She's not afraid to come here and explain to all of us why she and her team kicked against the use of AI in reflexive qualitative research. Tanisha, you are so very much welcome, and thank you for making it to this conversation. We also have in the house two people who will respond to Tanisha's presentation. Tanisha is going to speak for about 40 minutes using her slides. And after that, we're going to have Professor Adeshina Afolayan, Professor of Philosophy. I imagine that he will be coming from the angle of ethics. I'm not preempting to respond to Tanisha's presentation. And he's going to spend about 5 minutes on his response to her presentation. And after that, we're going to have another response from Professor Daniel Doe. Daniel is an adept user of AI, even before we started calling it AI in research. He and I have had a lot of working together, arguing together, disagreeing together on the use of AI in coding. Right back from the day of the first version of In Vivo, Atlas TI, and all of those software. And I think he is also a well-positioned person to respond to the presentation that Tanisha is going to give us. And so that is the background to this work. I am going to hand over to Tanisha now to make her presentation. After that, we'll take the responses. And after that, there will be some time for Q&A from the audience. Again, thank you for making the time to attend. And I believe we're going to enrich one another within the next 1 hour, 10 minutes. Thank you. Over to you, Tanisha.
Beautiful. Thank you. Let's see if I can get it working. Kia ora. I was born in New Zealand, which looks much larger on this map than it actually is. This morning, I am joining you, or rather this evening, I am joining you from my workplace, which is on Kumbermeri land in Queensland, Australia. The land that I am on was never ceded. I pay my respects to Kumbermeri people and all First Nations people on this webinar. I am a non-positivist, social scientist, and environmentalist. My research methodologies are deeply rooted in interpretivist methodologies. My main research areas are social aspects to people's experiences of health and care. I am therefore sensitive to such issues as justice, pro-social behavior, existentialism, risk, and what it means to care for and about people. Just as a orientation, in case this is of interest to anyone, I have about 120 publications. My works have been cited by the World Health Organization, the NICE UK Clinical Guidelines, and World Bank. And you can see on the left here some methodologies that I have used, most of which are interpretive and reflexive. This story starts, for me, in November 2022, when I, along with the rest of the world, noticed the tsunami, the technology tsunami wave that was heading towards us. This wave coincided with the release of ChatGPT 3.5. It was the fastest uptake of a new technology ever. For me, advances in AI technology and what these advances meant for me as a teacher in higher education and a social scientist felt like a tsunami. Yet universities the world over took up an embrace position, and the discursive context driven by the big tech companies, the media, and major global institutions was that AI is heralding the digital age. This is the age of technological advancement. Our students need to be ready for the future. They need to know about digital citizenship. Research will gallop ahead exponentially, and AI is here to stay. I felt like a tiny speck on the technology ocean. I had little knowledge of the depths beneath me. After all, I've dedicated my academic life to the study of people and their health, not technology. Were we in danger? Or did AI pose a positive turning point? Could there be something in the promises of the big tech bros? I needed to know more. I needed to appraise AI and generative AI in terms of my teaching and research contexts. So I'll speak to that for a moment. I started by learning about different types of AI tools and closed and open systems and Gen AI prompting. I created prompting resources. I explored the discriminatory risks posed by AI and Gen AI, tools that are trained predominantly on white global north data and epistemologies. I appraised and compared different generative AI tools for science and scholarship, concluding that generative AI is useful for supporting researchers to generate ideas, scoping literature, supporting the design of relevant and answerable research questions, and converting excellent mucky thoughts into reasonably engaging prose. I evaluated whether Gen AI was any good for systematic reviews and found most tools were not performing as well as humans. I contributed to our undergraduate AI curricula, whereby the focus was digital citizenship, generative AI prompting, and critical appraisal of outputs. For example, if you find this image here of childbirth in 2050 unsettling, I'd encourage you to ask why that is. Is it that there are no humans other than the apparently birthing mother? Is it that there's no baby? Is it the entirely barren desert in the background? Is it the medical inaccuracies? Or worse, is it the possibility that these could in some way be accurate to our future? Then I turned my attention to qualitative research, and this is what I want to discuss for the remainder of this presentation. Could generative AI be useful for speeding up qualitative research? Undoubtedly. Could it do this well? Could generative AI outputs be ethical and useful? Was generative AI a tool that the qualitative research community should embrace? I was unsure. In 2018, Jackson and colleagues discussed the tensions that technology posed to qualitative research, and they discussed this in terms of separation and distancing, homogenizing and standardizing, mechanization and dehumanizing, and quantification and decontextualizing. Then in 2024, Silver and Wright gave a plenary at the Social Research Association conference. Silver reminded the audience of Jackson's paper, noting that these tensions remain. Now, some qualitative researchers have adopted technology to support their analyses, and others have rejected it, and some folks still have no idea what tools are even out there. And actually, I shouldn't even say that they still have no idea, because there are tools hitting the market daily, and it is impossible to keep up with the new tools that are hitting the market. It is utterly impossible. If I were to dedicate my entire waking life to appraising the tools as they hit the market, I would scratch the surface. We've seen an increase in chatbots and AI agents, integrated generative AI with existing technologies such as NVivo, Atlas TI, Quadis, and MaxQDA, and a rise in new apps such as Coloop, Elicit, Analyse. People are also using generic AI tools such as ChatGPT or Copilot for supporting their research. Some research tasks for which AI is often used minimally remind us of the tensions that Jackson and colleagues raised in 2018. For example, technology for transcription of qualitative data. And here I'm thinking of tools such as Otter AI, Transana, or Quirkos, or using generative AI for content analysis. Although I have found that MS Word is a perfectly useful tool for supporting content analysis. And I have found that it is more reliable than several generative AI tools that I've used. Last year, Paulus and Moroni wrote about the tensions that qualitative data analysis technologies pose to our field. They identified 4 discursive dilemmas posed by such technologies as these ones I've just mentioned, Atlas TI, NVivo, MaxQDA, etc. And these 4 dilemmas are automated insight generation versus systematic meaning making, chatting with documents versus analyzing data, high speed versus high engagement, and novelty versus agency. They argue that the discourses promoted through these technologies are incompatible with the epistemological foundations of qualitative research. At this point, With the voices of Silver, Wright, Paulus, and Moroney in my mind, I worked with colleagues to evaluate whether Copilot could reliably analyze qualitative data. Here is an example of a Copilot thematic analysis of a published data set. The appraisal showed that there were multiple errors, and we concluded that Copilot did a poor job of thematic analysis and was incapable of reflexive thematic analysis. Now, this really ties to Kidder and Fine's 1987 notion of small q and big Q qualitative analysis. So, without knowing what our audience bring with them in terms of experience, I thought I would just go into that a little bit to set the scene. Small Q qualitative scholarship is proceduralist and technique-focused qualitative research. It is often applied within positivist, mixed methods, and deductive research projects. Examples of small Q qualitative research abound within medical and health sciences domains, which is where I work. Whereas big Q qualitative research is concerned with alignment between the researcher and values, epistemologies, to the methods that they undertake and the ways in which findings are presented. Big Q qualitative research is open to creative methodological approaches such as discursive or even epistemologically radical forms. Now, I do not see one as necessarily better or more valuable than the other. They each have their place. I have conducted plenty of small Q and big Q research. Generative AI tools may be suited to supporting some small Q qualitative research, but I suggest not big Q qualitative research. The primary reason for this in my mind, which I alluded to earlier, is reflexivity. Reflexivity is a process whereby the researcher critically examines their own positionality, their biases, assumptions, experiences, and how these might influence their approach to research. Reflexive research approaches are many, and I've listed some there, some main ones that come to mind. And I'll also just remind you at this point of Saunders' 2007 Research Onion, which some of you may be aware of, because reflexivity can potentially inform all onion layers. Tied to this concern about reflexivity is the black box problem, that is the lack of transparency with generative AI tools. Silver and Wright alert us to the planetary cost of AI to our planet, which is huge. They also alert us to the question of accountability and ownership and copyright of AI outputs. If generative AI is considered an extension of the researcher, Silver and Wright ask, what does this mean for the quality of the research output? Form, and here they mean brevity and speed, come at a cost to meaning, they say. Yet the primary concern of qualitative research is meaning. Sarah Elaine Eaton describes trust, integrity, and ethics as foundational to academic practice. We cannot research meaning without these foundations. So I reflected on the discourse from the big tech bros and the media and all the discourses that were flowing around the planet about the ways in which generative AI had already infiltrated technology. I had been previously reasonably comfortable with technology, and I was finding myself becoming less comfortable with technology as AI started to turn up in pretty much every technology that I was engaging with. Generative AI tools such as WhatsApp AI and Elise can undertake interviews for you and spit out transcripts. The analytical tools like NVivo, Atlas TI, and Quadas, etc., they could apparently label or code data, then analyze it thematically, then synthesize and summarize. And then you can take that, pop it into ChatGPT, and you can train that to write up an entire manuscript with images, figures, tables, referencing. All this can happen without the researcher even leaving their couch or engaging with another human. Where do we locate ethics, integrity, and meaning in this context? Is AI research slop? Excuse me. I would also note here that with generative AI, I've seen a rapid increase in the number of publications that students already have when they approach me to supervise their higher degree research studies. Before the Gen AI boom, in my experience, students often would come with somewhere between 2 and 5 publications, but now people are contacting me and they have 30 or 40 or 50 publications, and they've gained them all in the last 12 months or 18 months. And I find myself thinking, what makes you think you need a PhD if you've got all of these publications already? I'm just signaling this because it is connected with the publish or perish dilemma and the emphasis in academia on quantity over quality. And I think this is tied in with the what I'm calling the tech tsunami. I discussed my discomfort with a friend. I'm interested in humans, in social science research that involves humans to explore humans as social beings and for the benefit of humans. With AI, I'm not sure that we have the right tool for the job, I said. And she said, yes, it's like when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. As an experienced social scientist, prior to the tech tsunami, I didn't have a problem that needed fixing. But as generative AI infiltrated the technologies that I have become accustomed to using to support research, I increasingly have a problem. Just last week, I attempted to help a student run queries in NVivo, but the AI had automatically created cases and I couldn't find a way to undo them. They were incorrect cases. And I suddenly felt like my skills, I couldn't do things that were previously easy. So despite the discourse that AI will save time and money and optimize quality, I see a hammer. And worse, when knowledge, skills, and capability are outsourced to AI, we risk de-skilling humans. Now, this has been highlighted in several studies recently about de-skilling in medicine. And just a few weeks ago, there was a paper out in the Lancet talking about the de-skilling of surgeons through their use of AI and now unable to identify polyps and things. So the harms of de-skilling can be very significant, and we should pay very close attention to that. Then Virginia Brown gave a keynote about her concerns at the British Psychological Society Qualitative Methods in Psychology conference. She noted the rapid uptake of generative AI by many qualitative researchers make resistance seem futile. And I just note for anyone who's interested and who hasn't seen it, it's on YouTube. Just look up her name and you'll find it there, Dr. Brownlove. It's a really good talk. Anyway, In that talk, she noted the rapid uptake of AI by many qualitative researchers make resistance seem futile. But Deborah Lupton said, "We do not have to roll over and accept these risks," and Virginia agreed. Virginia said, "I think that we are approaching a point of existential threat for qualitative scholarship. There is value proposition threat, a threat that qualitative research could be reframed as meaning extraction from words, rather than the entangled and messy positioned and reflexive meaning making that it is, and that we have fought so hard for, to be recognized by positivist quantitative others as meaningful and valuable. Generative AI for qualitative research poses another exhausting defense," she said, "of our established goals and methodologies." And I absolutely agree with her. Around the same time, Nguyen and Welch published the 2025 paper, an excellent paper that evaluates generative AI for qualitative research and presents several significant shortcomings that pose unacceptable risks. The primary risk is, unsurprisingly, driven by meaning-making incapability. Others include tools getting it wrong and the trading of computer-aided data analysis software providers of tool for training data. So in that paper, they talk about Atlas QI basically allowing people to use the AI tool, but they give up their qualitative data on which the tool can be trained further. And these are very real risks. Nguyen and Welch note the importance of the scientific community's response to technological tools as paramount to the tool's adoption. And I really want to just sit on that thought for a moment, because it really resonated with me that they are saying we don't have to, we shouldn't just take the thing that is offered because it's offered and it's there and that's what everybody's doing. Academics can stand up and say, hang on a minute, no, actually, that one's not good for us in this context. And it felt like there was a shift in my mind. So these issues of futility and academic response were right front and center in my mind. So I emailed Virginia Brown and Victoria Clark and said, shall we write a letter about this? And Virginia said yes. So I dropped everything and wrote the draft that very moment. And within an hour, quickly flicked it back to her and to them both and said, would it look like this? Something like this? And Virginia and Victoria said yes. And then Deborah Lupton jumped in with the ecological elements and Michelle Fine with some person-centered words. Then Victoria said she wanted to open the invitation to anyone who wanted to sign the letter. And this is the bit that makes me feel like I do need to be brave in these conversations, because my Frankenstein paper was getting some unkind attention on LinkedIn, and I was very hesitant about inviting people I did not know to contribute to the letter and to what I was thinking and feeling. And this was the first time I had received unkind academic attention. And it was pretty horrible. There were some memes circulating. There were some generative AI materials. So anyway, I said, oh, I really don't want to do that, but Victoria insisted. And So I approached my university IT team and asked them if they could support to make the letter available in a safe way, and they said no. They could offer no such support. I therefore posted the letter the only way I could think to do it, which was on Google Drive. And Victoria and I shared the link to it through our LinkedIn pages, and I think she also put it through Facebook. As a side note, I wouldn't recommend this approach. It did cause me problems, such as people popping rants on the page while others were trying to sign it. Anyway, I contacted the editor of Qualitative Inquiry and asked if they wanted the letter, and they said that they could. They said yes, basically. So I kept the Google link open for 10 days. Some people became incensed by the letter. They copied it from Google and responded in rants on social media. Um, and then we published it as a preprint on SSRN and also submitted it to Qualitative Inquiry immediately. And I was just saying before this talk that today the proof came in for that final version of the letter. So that's exciting. Hopefully that'll come out soon. Now, I suspect you're all aware of the three main grounds upon which we reject the generative AI for reflexive approaches. Oh, I forgot to click that earlier. Apologies. Um, so these are the grounds upon which we reject the use of generative AI for reflexive qualitative research. First, reflexive approaches are concerned with meaning making, but generative AI as simulated intelligence is incapable of meaning making. Now, Craig Webster has an excellent paper on this detailing how AI differs from natural intelligence. It may appear intelligent, but it is a reflection of its coding and is incapable of sentience. In dual system theory, Webster explains that AI can achieve system 1 analyses, but not system 2 analyses, and it still suffers from the black box problem. And so a human must always be kept in the loop to check outputs, particularly those concerned with human safety. Keeping a human in the loop seems to be the catchphrase of every AI and generative AI academic paper I've read lately. Second, our second grounds for rejection are that reflexive approaches are concerned with humans and constitute a distinctly human practice, undertaken by humans, with or about humans, and for the benefit of humans. Uncritical use of generative AI introduces epistemic risks to the interpretive meaning-making core of qualitative research. And the trouble that I see here is that critical use of generative AI to reduce such risks requires a lot of knowledge of qualitative research, a lot of experience and skill, a lot of attention and prolonged focus that few of us have. In the letter, we hold the position that only a human can undertake reflexive qualitative analytical work, and therefore use of generative AI is the wrong tool for that job. We remind researchers to anchor the process of making strong psychodynamic interpretations in their own humanity. That is, their interpretations should surface conscious or even unconscious material and influences to explore humanity. And third, we draw attention to the established manifold harms of generative AI, especially to the environment and workers in the global south. You can see here that the carbon footprint of AI is huge. The computer centers are huge. They churn through water and electricity and materials. This third point is not a methodological concern as such. Rather, it is a concern for the cost to our planet and our people that generative AI poses. If you're going to use generative AI, you should be clear about why you're using it, what the benefits are, and whether these warrant the known harms. In the case of reflexive qualitative approaches, generative AI, I see it as the wrong tool for the job. So the harms absolutely outweigh the benefits. To conclude, I do feel like I am swirling in a tech tsunami, but I'm not going to let myself be swept along entirely. I can see that AI and generative AI hold significant potential and can be useful for a great many things, some of which I've listed in this presentation. But I do not think that generative AI is needed or even useful in the context of reflexive qualitative research, and the cost of the wrong tool is high. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tanisha. I am not one of the discussants, I'm not one of the responders, but I must say that now I know where you and your team are coming from when you made
Mm.
that declaration. I think a number of really critical and fundamental issues are at stake at this point. Uh, Thank you, but I'm going to leave all of that to the to the
Let's hear what the
respondents.
others think. Yeah.
Yes, so we will call on Professor Adeshino to go first, followed by Professor Daniel Doe. Over to you. Before you go, we want participants to kindly drop their questions, comments in the chat box, but somebody alerted me that the chat box is not enabled for participants. We're trying to fix that, but I mean, it would be a shame if people are unable to use the chat box. So the
Mm.
IT team is working on that. Thank you. Over to you, additional.
Thank you very much. Tanisha, thank you so much. This is really enlightening. I mean, when I saw the manuscript, your commentary, I was pleased. I mean, it's high time we began to, put more of our concern into action rather than just agonizing over our collective anxiety over, artificial intelligence, artificial systems, and model. So I'm going to cram a few comments and possibly question. Maybe there will be some question locking in my comments that you might want to also look at. Number one is I think that our anxiety is as a result of, the encroachment of artificial intelligence, where artificial systems and models generally on our belief, that we are the super intelligent being in the universe. And we see daily how these artificial systems are, gradually outmatching us in various dimensions. We keep outlining, areas like consciousness, like creativity, and all that. And gradually we keep seeing new developments in artificial system that seeks to undermine this area. So I can understand our anxiety in terms of how do we deal with this? How do we deal with machines that are increasingly becoming um, uh, challenging our understanding of ourselves as humans. I'm glad, for instance, when you mentioned that you are a researcher, a humanistic researcher who is interested in humans. interested in studying humans, interested in attending to the challenges faced by humans. And I'm wondering, how do we keep pulling back, from the precipice of, let's call it speciesism, how do we ensure that we do not get so involved with ourselves and fail to see what, as humanistic scholars, we ought to also be dealing with, which is how humans and our concerns and our challenges also intersect, with non-human dynamics also. I mean, this is humanistic, this is sociological. Humans must also deal, it is this kind of concern that leads to environmental ethics, for instance. That we cannot continue to be so filled with ourselves and our super intelligent status that we leave how our action interact with, non-human environment around us. So I am trying to see how we can bring that together, how as humans, we have issues and concerns that surrounds us that also feature prominently in our scholarship as humanistic scholars. How do we ensure that we are not too speciesistic, to also see, for instance, and in this case, the relationship that we are supposed to have with artificial models and systems. So are we at a stage of, are we denying the obvious that increasingly we have no choice but to engage with all these systems and continuously find a way to deal with them, especially in our research? That's number one. Number two, and let me share, when I read your paper, let me share a cultural wisdom from the Yoruba people of Nigeria. And that wisdom is, beheading is definitely not a cure for a headache. I am glad you got I am glad you got that point. I thank you. So that is the way we see it culturally, that if you want to cure a headache, you cannot cure that headache by just chopping off the head. So I see the attempt to reject generative AI as extremely that strategy, that we simply just reject it absolutely and do away with it. So these are my worries. Number one, is your rejection total and absolute? And I'm talking about reflexive research now. Are we not countenancing the possibility of deploying this artificial system as a tool, rather than just, is there no way that we can chain it with, cases of ethical frameworks and that we guide the way we use it? Why must we reject it totally? Number two, I think there's a sleight of hand here in terms of the standard that we have put in place. And that speaks to the second component of the objective, that reflexive research can only be done by humans. And in saying that, we have put on ground criteria that, specifically speaks to that concern in terms of understanding, in terms of meaning making. And we have relocated what it means to make meaning into a subjective inner world rather than an output, for instance. So, for instance, if an artificial system, if generative AI is able to write a novel that is outstanding, Are we going to reject that novel because it does not emanate from an inner world? You know, it does not emanate from a subjective understanding of meaning making, rather than the fact that that novel is outstanding. Every one of us can read it. It contributes to our understanding of our human world, our human life world. How do we read that? So for me as a philosopher, understanding, that concept of understanding and meaning, this is the way I put it. I said humanistic concepts like understanding and meaning are hopelessly lost within a bewildering maze of interpretive possibilities. As philosophers, we debate what does it mean to understand understanding every time. What does it mean? What is the meaning of meaning? That is a key issue in the philosophy of language. What does it mean to say you mean something? But to now situate meaning making within a subjective component and then outrightly reject the possibility that artificial systems are able to do the same, I think is a sleight of hand. And we do not even know increasingly, because we have systems that are increasingly getting better, you know, in their relationship with humans and all that. So can we do this? Is this something that we can do to say, can we keep saying that reflexive research is solely the domain of, yes, the domain of humans, but can human not be helped? Can we not find assistance, you know, in terms of how we do that reflexive research? Of course, we engage with each other, we engage with our environment, and this engagement enables us to speak to our research in so many dimensions. Why is it difficult for us to accept that generative AI can also serve as such a tool? My last point, the ethical concerns about algorithmic biases, the possibility of dominant paradigms are very, very genuine. Oh, they are very, very genuine. Again, to go back to that cultural wisdom, are we going to solve those concerns by rejecting Gen AI, or by finding some more sophisticated solution? For instance, in the global south, I am aware of so many. I was hoping one of them, Professor James Yeku, will be here. I am aware of so many efforts to intervene. For instance, there is effort about humanistic AI, about embedding AI within cultural context of Ubuntu, for instance, in South Africa. There are so many collectives and scholarships that are springing up all over the place, all over the globe, that are interrogating how algorithms that are being created now are reproducing biases, are contributing in a terrible way to environmental degradation and all this. So if we have responses, critical, significant responses to these challenges, I think that these are better ways of responding to the threats and the challenges of generative AI than just rejecting it out of hand. So these are my concerns. One, from an ethical perspective of, you know, our speciesistic tendencies to say humans and humans alone, without, you know, looking at the context within which humans are also operating, context that we have created by ourselves, context that I think we have the capacity to mediate and moderate. Two, from an epistemological perspective, to say that we are putting criteria in place, and that is the same strategy that led to anthropocentrism. Anthropocentrism in the first place. You know, the environment exists for humans alone, and with that premise, we have destroyed our world. You know, and then it is again humans that came up with them all sorts of paradigm for environmental engagement that is already, you know, leading us to a more ethical approach to understanding our world. Once again, thank you so very much for your scholarship, for your activism. It's a lot. It's wonderful, and I think it is conversations like these that enable us to get a handle on how to move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Afolayan. I hear you a lot. I mean, very clearly. But I think we'll listen to Daniel for his response, and then we'll give Tanisha a couple of minutes to just respond to both of them, and then we'll take the questions. Questions are coming in the chat gradually now. Thank
Yay!
you. Over to you, Daniel.
All right. Thank you. And Tanisha, I admire you for your bravery because this is a space that it only takes those who are brave to step into it. And you've done that so beautifully. Thank you. It feels a little redundant coming after Professor Afolayan because it appears that he has looked over my note. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Daniel. Maybe I peaked.
Yeah. But of course, I've read the manuscript and then I've listened to you. There's just one question I'm asking myself. And so if we say no, and so what? To what end? Where does he stop? At what point do we provide an intervention? Now, the other question I ask myself is, where exactly is the issue? One, I guess the issue is methodological because I heard that throughout the presentation. The issue is also ethical. I heard that. And the issue is also existential. So these three things are our main concern as far as the use of AI reflexive qualitative research is concerned. I am an ardent user of eVivo, and I am quite fascinated about the new functionalities of being able to auto code and all kinds of things with it. And I play with it a lot. And because I do a little bit of programming language too, I'm just fascinated about all of that. So I asked myself, so then moving into the future, how would this look like for me if they say no to reflexive qualitative research and AI use? The goal of every research is to establish some level of truth, evidence, and that truth either by meaning making or by deepening understanding of things. Now, the truth we establish at the end of the day is as good as the process itself. So then we're talking about methodological integrity, and all the conversations around the use of AI has to do a lot with methodological integrity, and then with the reflexive aspect, the positionality of the human interface. How do we deal with that? Every good and responsible researcher is mindful of, one, ethics, is mindful of responsibility, is mindful of rigor, is mindful of the quality of evidence that is generated. Unless otherwise, this person is not a good researcher. But every good ethical researcher will be mindful of these things. So then, if there is a tool, there is a platform to facilitate the research process, would that be helpful? I get the issue of reflexivity, human positioning within the process. And my ultimate question is, from where you stand as a researcher, do you foresee a future where AI and human reflective practice can coexist, bearing in mind that there are certain activities of the research process that we can default to an AI, Whereas there are certain processes within the research spectrum that are typically human interpretation and engagement. So can we foresee a future where this can coexist without demonizing the other? My concern is that, as you've already established it somehow, you clearly stated it, which sought to kind of convert me. And I was going to say that if there were 419 researchers who said no, do add +1, because I just got converted, But here, this is my concern. Can we have a future where both AI engagement and reflexive human interaction can coexist? Can there be a universal worldwide protocol standards that guide researchers in this space rather than outright no? If not, then the tsunami would really be a very heavy tsunami, and we would keep fighting each other as researchers and going back and forth. I rest my case. Thank you so much for that exciting presentation. Thank you.
Thank you
Kia
very
ora,
much.
thank you.
Yes, Professor Daniel. Questions coming. Donald, I see your hand. I will call you, but I am thinking Tanisha would want to spend a minute or two to just generally respond to the input from Adeshino and Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you. I have given a lot of thought to everything that you have said. My inbox in my email has doubled since that letter. I now get about 100 emails a day from people responding to the letter. And I look forward to that being less because it's a lot to get through. But there's a lot of people that are raising these issues, and I see the letter as productive in that it gets us thinking and talking about what the problem is and what the opportunities are and how we can move forward in this context. Some of the emails that I get say, you're inciting the paradigm wars of the 1980s and, like, rah, this is dangerous terrain. What are you hoping to achieve here? But my heart is with the junior researcher. And when I think about how very long it took me to get the skills and the knowledge and the capability to be able to do meaningful work of integrity that would be recognized by others as such, and actually adding value to our pool of knowledge. I worry for the junior researchers. I worry for them that they will be de-skilling, that they don't even know what they don't know. So the risk to them is much greater than it is perhaps to us. And so when I think about them, and Daniel, you said, that people that our researchers are ethical. But actually, I find that it is that the path, they say the path to hell is lined with good intentions.
With good intentions.
Yeah, and that you can be doing all of these things and wandering along the path and then suddenly realize, oh golly, I've come a very long way from where I intended, and I'm not sure quite how I got here. And I feel like that is a very real possibility, a very distinct possibility for a lot of particularly junior researchers, people who are new to the space and new to actually doing reflexive qualitative research and learning how to code. That is a skill that is actually not just about coding. It's about, seeing the wood through the trees. It's about actually noticing the complexities that we have as interconnected humans and intersectional beings. So I don't disagree with you, but I'm worried. So, and it seems that there's quite a few other people who are worried too. And yeah, I thought about the comment around speciesism. And look, I know there's some fantastic research that goes on about our interactions with other species and with the planet. And I read a book by a chap who I wanted to look up to remind myself. There's a guy who was looking at the environment and how AI has been used for big systems like crops, pesticide use, and management of, feeding the cows and all of this sort of stuff, but that the AI, somewhat ironically, is actually using up all of these resources that are having these ecological tensions that are playing out. That, of course, this involves other species. And so I don't mean to offer a talk that is speciesist, but I'm simply speaking to the space in which I operate. And I've dedicated, 25 years to studying humans and care and health and human health, specifically. So, okay, I might just leave it there for now and invite more conversation. But I have to press the air conditioning because I'm like cooking. Give me a second.
We have many questions right in the chat box. Sorry for the hitch in the group chat. Our IT team tried to fix it, but they haven't been able to. So questions have been directed at me like a private chat, and then I copy and paste in the group chat. But before we take the questions, we have just 10 minutes left. So sad. I can see your hand, Donald Mbaka. Can you unmute yourself, please, and ask your questions? After that, then I'm going to read out some of the questions one by one. Thank you. Donald, over to you.
Good morning, Dr. Prof.
Yes, good morning.
Can you hear me? Okay. I'll just speak without my video on, please. So it's an interesting subject, and I came in a bit late, but I have a very good idea of where this whole conversation is going to and where I think it is headed. What Tanisha has said, I think this is really a subject of serious concern. I work in a policy environment, so research is very central to policy making, and the power that artificial intelligence has brought into research is phenomenal, as well as concerning. Speaker said something about, the previous speaker, the last question, I think was asking about how a model to balance between human reflective reasoning and the products of research on artificial intelligence. AI as it is currently is just at like a foundational stage, because AI is expected to move towards artificial general research and then artificial super intelligence. artificial general intelligence and artificial super intelligence. That's where AI, they say AI assumes sentience. That's when AI can function on its own without human input at the level of artificial super intelligence. AI sentience. AI just becomes a person on its own. It has been trained, the model has been trained with the data it needs to work with, and it has interacted with people over time that it develops a mind of its own, if I will put it that way. And from my own experience, I thought that when you are in the field, I'm not in the academia, but I work closely with people in the academia and that. But you see, the beauty and the pride of somebody who does research and maybe make policy prescriptions is the ability to be able to own whatever it is you have put down as your research and as your policy prescriptions. If you present a research and policy prescriptions and you are grilled and you are questioned on those things that you put out, could you actually answer everything from any whatever detail is required? Most probably not, because it didn't come from you. And that is the professionalism there. That is the professionalism there, the ability for you to be able to defend and respond to every aspect of a body of work that you put out. And that ability comes from your being part of the research process. Like the research came from you. The research was not imposed to you or not given to you. It came from you. So I think that's very, very important. And while the fantastic work that AI does cannot be questioned, because when you see these AI researches, it gives you everything. You don't really need to think. You just need to read through and go say what you want to say, and you'll be heralded as somebody who is fantastically intelligent. But for somebody who values the human ability, you would question yourself. For me, that's what I do. I would question myself like, okay, this isn't me. This is in me. Sometimes when I want to do a research, I could maybe just do a check and get do a quick search, put that thing out there, and see what results I get, and read. Oh, okay. Perhaps it just gives me an idea to say, okay, maybe there are some things I may not have been considering, and then I would see one or two information that expands my scope for the research. But I would want to do the research myself, so that I know where the sources I got the information from. I know the authors. You know how research goes. You begin to have a feeling of who the author is. You have a deep insight into the reasoning behind the submissions they made in their papers and all that. So I would conclude, sir, by saying yes. I totally. I will be careful with words. I wouldn't say I totally subscribe to the fact that research should have a strong reflective component. But AI in itself, of course, provides some value. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Donald. I just want to respond because you reminded me of this fantastic paper that was published as a preprint, I think about 6 weeks ago, on One Science Framework, and it's been very, very popular. These researchers did a study looking at higher degree students and academics and mapping their brain, doing EEG mapping. And so they were showing that the parts of the brain that light up when we are using AI are not the same parts of the brain that light up when we are doing learning. And so it was quite interesting. They also tested people who just wrote an essay. They had to write an essay from themselves, and they compared it with people who are writing an essay with AI and what they could remember later. The people who had wrote it themselves were able to remember a lot more than others. And so this really speaks to the kind of literature that's emerging around this de-skilling issue. And I think that's a real risk that we do have to somehow navigate. Yeah, so thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Tanisha. I think this skilling issue is a really big one that we need to think about carefully. Our time is really, really gone, but I'll just read out a couple of questions. Some of them came in early, many of them came in earlier, and I think a couple of them have been answered in the conversations that followed. Ariyibi is saying something about an experience in a university. Say when you submit your assignment, the university does not say don't use AI, but then you must submit along with the AI prompts that you used. And now he's asking, is this the way to go to maintain ethical standards in research? Maybe I should let Daniel think about that and answer that question briefly. And then another participant is asking, what specific aspects of qualitative research do you believe are most vulnerable to AI-generated content, and how can researchers mitigate the risk? I think Tanisha has spoken to bits and aspects of this. Maybe you just want to reiterate a point or two. And then I will throw this to Professor Afolayan. I have a friend who has produced more publications using AI assistance than he would without these tools. So the real issue here is, yeah, we know productive capacity. So his question is, yeah, okay, so however, the more serious concern will be to what extent will the use of these tools make us less of a critical thinking speciesism, as Afolayan said it, and will the gains, and then the skilling there, will the gains in productivity as a result of AI application across every domain of human life benefit everyone, not just a few? Okay, maybe we can take that round of question. Maybe we'll just bring it to a close after that. Sorry for the other people who have posted questions here. Yes, we start with you, Daniel.
Yeah,
Daniel, yes.
yeah, thank you. Yes, I think that these days you can cite your, if you use AI, you can cite it, but most journals are now requiring you to sign up the AI statement, whether you have used AI in generating any part of thesis, I'm sorry, the article. So you have to indicate whether you have done that or not. And it's a requirement for most journals.
Yeah, our university has taken an embrace. So we're trying to do as much stuff that is AI supported or AI focused, and rather than otherwise. And certainly it seems like a nice starting point to at least encourage people in their prompt capability and skills, and in reporting those prompts and those interactions to see how they've actually gotten from one thing to the next. That seems like a useful mechanism for promoting transparency, which is key for integrity. I don't know the answer to your question about which reflexive research is more at risk than others. But I think I see a difference between thematic analysis and reflexive thematic analysis, and so I see there being some thematic spaces in which AI could work in a productive, meaningful, human connected way, and content analysis could be a space in which we might want to interact with AI in useful ways. But the ones that I feel most worried about, maybe feminism. I don't know. Honestly, the whole thing's got me in stitches, and I'm just a big tangled up knot. So feel free to tell us the answer. That sounds good. I'll pass over to you, Adishina.
Thank you. It's a serious issue, really, and so now we are working. I mean, to that concern about critical thinking. Now people have made a distinction between AI assisted work and AI, generated work. And, you simply just prompt AI to do something and it generates everything. Or you simply just ask for assistance in, the research that you are doing. And I think that concern is very critical in terms of people now having 100 papers, that were not written by them. And it goes back to your concern, Tanisha, about, how long it took every one of us to get to this point, the training, the pressure, the stress, the skilling and all that, and suddenly all that we go to waste. There's a genuine concern there. I agree. There's a genuine concern about critical thinking and how that no longer seems to have a basis, seems to have a place in what we now do in terms of reflexive research. So I agree. I agree with the person who wrote the question that yes, there is an issue with critical thinking in terms of research. There's if we continue going this way without putting ethical protocols in place and all that, without this kind of conversation, I think we are something terrible that possibly we have not foreseen is going to happen. I totally agree with you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Afolayan. I think by extension, you have answered the question here from Babatunde. He's saying, if we liberally accept and embrace AI tools for qualitative analysis, how do we handle the aspects of intuition and inference, which are essential
Yeah.
to interpretations of qualitative data in humanistic research? Yeah, so those are big issues. I mean, those things will suffer. That is one thing. And as Tanisha talked about de-skilling, our ability to even do this will decline further and further if we're not careful. Yeah, thank you very much. I think, would it be a kind summary if I say what I hear us saying here, and maybe I shouldn't attempt to summarize at all, so that I leave everybody to just go away with what they have made out of these.
I doubt you can summarize.
Yeah, so I'm going to just let everybody go away with what they have. Yeah, but I think we're all here. We all came here because we think AI is that this conversation is very important. And I think we have raised questions, some of which we've answered, others we have not answered. One thing I think the Thousand Hills Research and Action Collective would like to take forward is the question of guideposts and guardrails or policies as we think about the use of AI in pedagogy, in research, and in other aspects. I mean, it's just good to hear again and again that Tanisha is not saying all of AI is evil and should be rejected, but that we need to insist on remaining humans and preserving our agency as humans for very important reason as we make use of AI. And as I look across the landscape, I do not know if the number of African universities with clear, articulate public AI policy, if we have up to 10 yet, out of about 2,000, 3,500 universities on the continent. Maybe this is another level of conversation among university administrators and policymakers, and maybe this is something we can kickstart as a follow-up to this conversation. As we bring this to a close, let me very sincerely thank you, Tanisha. I listened to you, and there is something very deeply emotional and personal in your conversation. So you are not a detached academic, talking about things that they do in their pastime or for some kind of promotion, but you are deeply concerned about the impact of AI on who we are and what we are as humans. And you infected me with that passion as we went through this. And thank you for making the time out to come. It's so late in Australia now. You should be in bed. Thank you also, Daniel. Yeah, I know Daniel. Daniel doesn't sleep. I don't know how he manages. And thank you very much, Professor Afolayan, for sharing a good part of your day with us. I want to thank every participant on behalf of TRAC Africa, and I say I hope to see you again when our next dialogue series comes up. The recording will be shared with you and with everybody who registered for this seminar. Thank you very much, and we'll bring this to a close at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.